Well, hello and welcome to a very special race here today. We have some marvellous machines down on the grid that in just a few moments will be accelerating up to some really high speeds indeed to compete for a prestigious Grand Prix victory. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. I'm joined again today by none other than Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, obviously there's a lot of development work that goes on with these cars between the races. You've been both a test driver and a race driver. What differences are there in the way you approach those roles?
Interesting question, Crofty. They're two very different mindsets. I mean, when I tested for BAR, we had full in-season testing where, per driver, you'd cover up to 15,000 kilometres per season. And in that role, it was more about working for the team, trying to help them improve the car and drive as systematically as you could, so that that data could be analysed in the most consistent way. When you're lining up on the grid for a race, however, your frame of mind's all about what you can get out of the situation on that day, and the car's the tool to help you achieve what you want. You still want to focus on setup, of course, but it's more about the here and now, getting yourself as far up the field as possible, and less about development work for the future.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Daniel Ricciardo starts from pole position today, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Raikkonen, Valtteri Bottas and Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Perez, Van Dorn and Esteban Ocon, Grosjean, Magnussen, Carlos Sainz and Alonso, Stroll, Sirotkin, Brendan Hartley and Pierre Gasly, Ericsson and Charles Leclerc rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Right, let's be patient going into turn 1. We want to be in a good position for the rest of the race. Good luck. P5, Perez ahead, gap to car in front is 2.3 seconds. They're on fresh Ultra Softs. Bottas behind. The gap is less than a second. They're on fresh Ultra Softs. The distance to the leader is 7.6 seconds. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 2 laps left. Next time by will be your final lap. We've been given a 3-second time penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. Race officials have enabled DRS. DRS is now available. Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Brilliant stuff from Red Bull today. What a superb victory. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
Well, I think the track conditions just really suited their car today. Wind, track temperature, you name it. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature. So the more easily you can keep them there, the better your race tends to go. And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
And I can see now the drivers are making their way out. We need Red Bull fighting at the front. They do an incredible amount for Formula One. And that's another winner's trophy heading back to Milton Keynes. And now I'd like to ask you, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
Let's give it to Sergio Perez. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
That's it for today's Grand Prix, and from Ant and I, it's goodbye, and see you again next time. Welcome to Sao Paulo, which has been host to Formula One races since 1973. Sit back and relax for what's going to be a fantastic Brazilian Grand Prix. Interlagos, always a very special race here in Brazil. It's a 2.7-mile circuit with 9 lefts and 6 rights for a total of 15 corners. But it's a wet one today, so grip and visibility will be at a premium. And the drivers will need to be careful coming up the hill in Sector 3, the scene of many an accident over the years. Joining me on this very wet day is a man who's no stranger to driving in miserable conditions. Anthony Davidson, you've driven open cockpit, you've driven sports cars. How does the wet weather experience change between the different disciplines?
Well, I wouldn't say there's much difference in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in sports cars with the different categories all sharing the same track, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference between the two is the closed cockpit versus the open cockpit. You get the luxury of staying dry in the sports car, but if your screen ever gets dirty, well, that's a pit stop, not just wiping your visor or pulling away a tear off. But most of the time, you know, they're both as miserable as each other, to be honest.
So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Bottas, Sebastian Vettel and Raikkonen, Magnussen, Grosjean, Ocon and Stoffel van Dorn, Hülkenberg, Perez, Carlos Sainz and Alonso, Gasly, Ericsson, Brendan Hartley and Sergei Sorokin. Leclerc and Lance Stroll rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Okay, remember to protect the inside on the run down to turn 1. Make yourself as wide as possible, robust but fair. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. You are in first position, front of the pack. Verstappen is behind you. Our gap behind is 3.3 seconds. They're on fresh inters. This is your final lap of the race. Superb driving. That's the race win.
Brilliant stuff from Mercedes today. That's another historic win. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I think the track conditions just really suited their car today. Wind, track temperature, you name it. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature. So the more easily you can keep them there, the better your race tends to go. And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
And here are our podium drivers today after that excellent race. They've excelled here, as they so often do, and it's a well-deserved victory. Mercedes, then, are on top today. Moving on to the driver of the day then. Anthony Davidson, who would you go for?
Oh, well, it's got to be Lewis Hamilton. He was fast, decisive, everything you'd want from a top-class driver.
That's it for today's Grand Prix, and from Ant and I, it's goodbye, and see you again next time.